How's it going, everybody? Today I'm going to show you how to create a cool abstract background using Blender 2.93's new geometry nodes. So to begin, we're going to get rid of the default light. We're going to get rid of the default cube. Then we're going to add ourselves a plane. And all of the work that we're going to be doing to the geometry is going to be transforming this plane. We're also going to switch our camera into top view by pressing 7 on the numpad, and then press Ctrl-Alt-0 on the keyboard so that we can get a top-down view of our plane. The next thing we'll do is go into the Geometry Nodes tab, go to the 3D viewport and press 0 on the numpad to skip into the camera's view. And now with our plane selected, we're going to press New to add a brand new Geometry Node setup. If you don't see the Geometry Nodes tab in your Blender, make sure you're running 2.93. So, the geometry comes in here as a plane, but we want it to fill the entire screen. The entire camera view anyways, so we are going to turn on screencast keys so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding a transform node to the geometry. And I'm going to scale it up. I'm going to scale it up by x10 and y10 so that it completely fills the screen. And any deformations of this mesh are going to be caught within it. And if we decide to change the resolution of our background later on, we'll get everything in it too. So, now that we've got our plane filling the screen, we are going to subdivide it. So, you're going to add a subdivision surface. Or no, you're just going to be adding a regular subdivide, never mind. So add a subdivide node, and then we're going to switch into wireframe mode to see what that did. It created 2 new wireframe mode, right? So it created 3 now, 4, 5 different subdivisions. You're getting into a little grid here. But let's allow the user to customize it. So we're going to drag the level over here to the group input. And now you'll see level. I'm going to rename that. So if you press N on the keyboard, you'll go over here to this little sidebar. Click on level, double click, and then you're going to say resolution. So now we can up and down the resolution of our background by increasing and decreasing this slider. I'm going to leave it on 4 for right now. The next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to triangulate it. So we're going to add a triangulate node to the mix. And now instead of quads here, we have little triangles. The end result here is going to look a little bit like a mountain range. And so because of that, I like to have triangles so that we get some peaks and valleys, and it looks a little bit more interesting, I'd say. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to displace every single vertex here. You can see each one of them. But we're going to displace every single one by a random amount. So what we're going to do is we're going to make 3 random attributes, an X, a Y, and a Z. And then we are going to use the point translate node to displace each one of the vertexes by a random XYZ coordinate. To do that, we're going to go to the attribute randomize, and we're going to add 3 of these guys. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to call it random X or RX, random Y, random Z. And now you see we've added 3 new attributes to our spreadsheet down here. They're all values between 0 and 1. And to make this a little bit more interesting, I'm going to connect the max column here to the group input for a random X. I'm going to connect it for random y. That's z. So I'm going to connect it for y. And then for z. So 3 separate inputs that you can see over here on the sidebar. Now I'm going to double click on each of these and I'm going to call it displace x, displace y, and displace z. So we've created 3 new random attributes. Let me get a little bit more space here. You can see them up there. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we can't do a point displace based on all 3 of these. What we need to do is we need to combine them into one vector. And you can do that by adding a attribute combine XYZ node. And we are going to add a attribute combine XYZ, and we're going to set the X, Y, and Z to attributes. And we're going to choose RX, RY, and RZ. And the result is going to be called displace. Final thing we're going to do is add a point translate. And we're going to do an attribute, and we're going to offset all these points by displace. And now you can see that we've got something forming here that looks a little bit more abstract, a little bit more interesting. Now, to allow us to generate an infinite number of these backgrounds on the fly, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this seed value for the RX, RY, and RZ to the group input so that you can change it on the fly. I'm going to keep it at 0 because I think it looks kind of cool like that. But we're going to connect all the seed values to the same socket. Now when you go through here, you can get any number of these. And just so that you know, the displace x shows how far we're going to offset it in the x. The y is how far we're going to offset it in y. And of course, z is how far away we're going to offset it in the z, the peaks and the valleys. So I'm just going to set these back to the way that they were. And now we've got this randomized mesh. Okay, sorry for the jump cut, but after playing around with the settings over here on the side, I've gotten to a point that the geometry is looking like the way that it's looking when I did this originally. So I've increased the resolution to 5, I've got the displace x to 0.6, displace y is negative 1.1, and displace z is pretty much on 0, but it's not completely 0. Then the seed here, I've set it to 14 because I think that looks pretty neat. So now that we've got our geometry set up, it's time to shade it. We're going to go to the Shading tab. Make sure that you're looking at the top-down view of the camera, so press 0 on the numpad. And what we're going to do is add a brand new material. We're going to leave all this stuff as it is, and we're going to add a texture coordinate. And we're going to add a mapping node. So we got 2 new nodes, texture coordinate and mapping. We're going to plug the mapping right into emission. And then we're going to plug the reflection right into vector. The next thing that you got to do to make this work properly is you'll need to switch to viewport shading. Because in the shading preview, it doesn't look anything like it's actually going to look when you load it up. So Now we've got a really cool looking background. You could render this as is, but I'm going to show you how to do a little bit more colorizing of it. The easiest way I've found to do that is if we add a RGB to black and white. So if you do that, now you've got this black and white image of what looks like kind of a mountain range. You can see as you decrease or increase the resolution, it can get as detailed as you like, as busy as you want. And you can displace the X, the Y, and the Z. I'm going to leave it where it is. And what we're going to do now that we've got this black and white image is we're going to color it. So we're going to add a mix RGB. And we're going to add another mix RGB. So we're going to duplicate this, put the output of one into the other. We're going to change this mix RGB to darken, or to lighten, I mean. I guess it doesn't really matter which comes first. And then this one is going to be darken. There it is. So now we've kind of removed a bit of the black values here, but the reason why is because we're going to be replacing these colors here, color 1 and color 2. Color 1 is going to be the bottom of the image, so I'm going to have maybe a blue color like this, and the top is going to be some sort of a brown color. That's the way I like it anyways. You can do whatever fits your taste best. I like this kind of yellowish brown color like this. And now that we've got that, you can render it just like this, and now you'll have your cool background. I like putting it 500 or so. The peaks and the valleys here, or you can do it in Eevee and not have that. There we go.